Welcome back to my channel, Paparazzi. Today I'll be talking to you about sprinklers, water tanks, range, and crops. Optimizing your sprinkler setup. I've gotten a few comments on various videos talking about the sprinkler and the range. So when I made my original video talking about range, it seemed to be different. This is an early access game, so things are constantly getting fixed and updated. But the range for a tank to work for sprinklers is 10. So starting from the first spot out, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So this whole bordered area is the 10th space. If a sprinkler was here, it will also work. Another question I have gotten was, what happens if I just put another sprinkler on the border of this? Wouldn't it give me 2 additional spaces? The answer is yes, but with diminishing returns, which I'll explain to you a little bit later with a diagram. And another question was, what is the optimal sprinkler setup? The optimal sprinkler setup, as I can best understand it, is what I have here. Now, I'm not a mathematician. I am not a genius of any sort. I am just a person doing tests and trial and error. But if you know something better, if you are better at math and geometry and you can figure out a better way using the rule of 10 tile radius with a 21 by 21 maximum effective range and the 2 by 2 grid that these sprinklers are effective in, then maybe you can come up with a better solution than what I have. But based on my tests and my trial and error, the 20 by 20 grid with 16 sprinklers and a water tank in the middle is the best setup for water sprinklers based on my trials. And I'll go over that right now with some diagrams. So again, just to reiterate, I am not a genius or some kind of mathematician, but this is based on my trial and error and based on the criteria that I mentioned before, with the water tank in the center and the 10 space radius of the water tank. Now, if you notice here, this is my 20 by 20 field that I just showed you before. And you'll also notice that there is one space outside of this radius. That was the border that I had made with the rocks. And you can also put a sprinkler here. And I'm going to show you right now why putting a sprinkler here is a bad idea. For starters, I have a 16 sprinkler setup with the water tank in the middle again. And if you were to add sprinklers to the border, the minimum that you can add to the border and still hit the most amount of spaces is 16. By putting 4 on each end. But the optimal space for sprinklers would be this distance right here for the maximum amount of sprinkler coverage without any overlap. But of course, you are outside of that radius of 10. With the 16 additional sprinklers on the border, keep in mind that there are 16 sprinklers on the inside, so you just effectively doubled the number of sprinklers. So the best case scenario would be to double the number of tiles, right? Well, that is not the case here. Now I'll show you why. Because by adding these 16 sprinklers 2 spaces away from each other, rather than the maximum of 4 spaces away from each other, you'll be hitting these areas right here, effectively losing 144 tiles. 16 sprinklers with a radius of 2, but in this case it's more of a blocked off grid, so it'll be 5 by 5, which is 25 tiles per sprinkler, minus the 1 tile that the sprinkler is actually on, will give you 384 tiles. Now on the inside, you get the same 384 tiles hit minus the 4 tiles of the tank, which gives you 380, which I talked about in my seed video. But on the outside, there is no tanks, so that would give you 384. The problem with that is this yellow overlap that you see. This yellow overlap subtracts 144 tiles from the 384, which leaves you 240. So like I said before, there's 16 sprinklers on the inside, so if you want to add 16 on the outside, you are doubling your sprinkler count and all the materials needed to make sprinklers, which is a lot, believe me, because I made 4 of these setups. But if you double the sprinklers on the outside, 16 on the outside, you should get 380 at least on the outside. Actually 384 because there's no tank, but you can't get that because of this overlap right here in the yellow border, which takes away 144, which leaves you with only 240. So you're not getting to double the tiles back. Therefore, there's diminishing returns. That's why I do not put sprinklers on the border of this right here. And there's also little gaps here as well. So therein lies your problem. By the way, 25 by 25 tile grid would not work for the same reason of overlap. And no matter how you arrange the sprinklers, you're always going to get overlap somewhere, even if you use regular sprinklers or the advanced sprinklers. The 25 by 25 grid just would not work. So that's why I don't add sprinklers on the border of my 20 by 20, and that's why I think it is the best setup right now, the 20 by 20. But I have been experimenting with other options. I've always been worried about making more sprinklers because the of materials used to make sprinklers is very costly. But what I haven't really taken into account is maybe making more tanks. So I wanted to maximize everything. So I wanted to make sure I got the max range out of my tank and utilize every effective square minus, of course, this 10th one right here, and get the maximum out of each sprinkler. Well, the sprinklers are expensive, so that makes sense to get the maximum out of every sprinkler. But the tank is only 1/16 of these sprinklers, since there's 16 sprinklers in each one of these setups that I have here, and I have quite a few of these setups. I have 4 of them actually. But the tank is only 1/16, so maybe I could just make more tanks, put them on the edge, and then fill the center with sprinklers. Yes, I will be losing a lot of effective squares of each tank, but with the tank being 1/16 of the whole setup, maybe it's worth losing a few squares to get more out of it. So I will be messing around with that and possibly making a video if the setup proves to be more effective than what I have here. That's all I have for you today. Thank you all for your support and your comments and suggestions. If you have anything else you would like me to test out, please let me know in the comments below. I enjoy doing these tests. It's kind of fun and it takes a lot of time, but it's worth it in the end because I learned something as well. Make sure you hit that like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you later. Peace.